and welcome to Health Options. A member of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 had at a forum stated that one of the reasons why COVID-19 and the emergence of variants of concern such as Delta and Omicron is the promotion of vaccine nationalism, which refers to the pervasive inequality at global level that enables such countries to procure vaccines for their own citizens with direct agreements with pharmaceutical companies, while the low and middle countries are left behind. On the other hand, they are unable to act at a quick pace as the rich countries secure the qualities of the vaccine that they require. What are the prospects for self-reliance for Nigeria in terms of looking inward to develop its own vaccines? That's our focus on this week's edition of Health Options. Join us on our Nature Scanner for information on how to reduce high blood pressure the natural way. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. If you are just joining us, this is Health Options, the program that not only tracks government policies on health, but helps you with the information you need to make informed choices about your health. We are taking a look at COVID-19 and Nigeria's prospects at vaccine production. And to take us through the discussion is Dr. Godswill Okara. He is Registrar and Secretary General, West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science. It will also interest you to know there is a one-time president of the Association of Medical Lab Scientists of Nigeria. Thanks for coming on Health Options, Dr. Okara.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
My pleasure.
All right. Before we, dabble into the main topic, which is Nigeria's prospect at, local production of a vaccine with particular focus on COVID-19. We know we're in a pandemic and it is the infant. We are aware of vaccine nationalism and all of that. It's a wake-up call for countries to start looking inward and taking ownership of what, benefits their citizens. But before we dabble into that, I decided to take you up on this topic because as a medical lab scientist, you're aware, you were part and you were in the picture of the good old days when Nigeria could boast of, the local production of vaccines such as the yellow fever vaccine. Can you take us down memory lane before we settle down to the main topic?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Nigeria had produced smallpox vaccine, yellow fever vaccine, anti-rabies vaccine in large doses, in export quantities. In fact, a past president of the Association of Medical Lab Scientists of Nigeria, the late Mr. Michael Nwachukwu, told us that in the 60s, during the tenure of Dr. Maje Kodumi as the Honorable Minister of Health, that he returned from WHO meeting in Geneva and sent for Mr. Michael Nwachukwu and said, I have committed Nigeria, that Nigeria will produce 10 million doses of smallpox vaccine for use in the West African sub-region. Take a sheet of paper and take pen. Tell me what it will take to deliver on this promise. And he said, right there in his office, he itemized all the things that will be needed: materials, money, and personnel. He sent for the permanent secretary. So a very practical way of approaching situations. And all the things he mentioned, the minister went ahead to make sure that they were provided. And he said they produced more than 10 million doses of smallpox vaccine that were used in eradicating smallpox, both in Nigeria and in the West African sub-region.
Okay.
So if we could do all that in the 60s and 70s, you recall that smallpox was officially announced as eradicated in 1978 after a sustained and vigorous vaccine campaign in Nigeria and in Africa in general. We also produced yellow fever vaccine in export quantities. Anti-rabies vaccine, the same thing. All of a sudden, in the name of upgrading facilities and upgrading technology, the vaccine production lab in Yaba was allowed to go into dilapidation. It's really curious that people will allow themselves, for example, if we are using fossil fuel for powering vehicles, somebody comes to float an argument, oh, fossil fuel is not environmentally friendly, therefore abandon your cars, wait until we get electric-driven cars. Or they tell you in the rural areas, forget about your camel, forget about your donkeys as a means of transport. Wait until we get vehicles. This also happened to our national vaccine production lab in Yaba. In order to upgrade from analog to the digital technology system, we allowed our laboratory to go into dilapidation, and up to today, we aren't producing a single human vaccine in Nigeria. Whereas our colleagues in National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, are producing, as we speak, up to 18 different animal vaccines in export quantity using the same analog technology and system. So when we talk about vaccine, people make it appear as if it's rocket science. It is not. These are laboratory techniques and laboratory procedures. We are all taught, we all practiced and practicalized, even in training in school. There is nothing out of the world about producing vaccine. It's a question of our nation providing the enabling environment, as WHO has repeatedly called on countries in Africa, because Africa is beset with epidemic-prone diseases. Year in, year out, you hear of outbreaks that lead to catastrophic damage to health and life in our environment. So if there is any country or any continent that should be busy about vaccine production, it should be Nigeria and Africa, and not the other way around.
And of course, if Nigeria gets it right, the rest of Africa
precisely
will follow suit.
Yes.
Have we been able to upgrade the Yaba lab?
No.
As we speak?
Unfortunately.
So it's one infrastructure that is begging for attention.
Yes, that place is under lock and key. In fact, if you go there, you weep for this country. Overgrown with grass. Wow. So it's a pathetic situation. In 1993, WHO, in a resolution, called on African countries as a matter of priority to invest in laboratory systems and manpower, so as to provide, there are these things we call vaccine preventable diseases.
Yes.
And they are up and about in our country.
A lot of them are childhood.
So if there is anything we need to concentrate and invest in, it is the production of vaccine.
Okay, let's take a look at the times that we're in now. Vaccine nationalism, I don't know. What do you think is the missing link? Is it about the fact that COVID-19 is a viral disease, and as such, we don't have the expertise, or we can't readily, stand on our own and look inward and come up with a vaccine that we can use to, address our own issues back home, especially with vaccine hesitancy? Do you think if we're able to maybe get it right back home, that it could address this issue of vaccine hesitancy?
Yes, indeed. It's sad to mention that up to 1 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine expired in Nigeria and had to be destroyed. And that is not unconnected.
Do we have authentic information on that?
Yes. There is information from the agency responsible for vaccine use. So we have a daunting task to address...
Because people are not coming forward.
Precisely. So we have a daunting task to address the issue of vaccine hesitancy. People come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories that have no foundation in science. The issue of vaccine nationalism is only natural and human. When you are in the plane, they tell you, should there be a loss in oxygen, tension, make sure you wear your own mask before you help any other person. It's only natural. So if the Western world and the rich world is losing a lot of their citizens, as we saw, to COVID-19, it's only natural and human that they will do the needful to ensure that their citizens are protected.
Which is a wake-up call for the middle and low-income countries.
Precisely.
So what do you think Nigeria should be doing? What are the prospects for Nigeria?
We have the manpower.
Okay.
We have the skill. We have the expertise. All that is needed is to apply our funds appropriately. It's a question of engaging the people who are trained, who have been trained, whose job, whose function it is, rather than you chase shadow and put the cart before the horse. They make it appear as if it is something out of the ordinary to produce vaccine. It is not. It is not.
Okay, we are trying to, highlight the missing link here, the political will, funding. I was made to understand that vaccine production is very, very expensive. It requires a huge amount of money. Do you think that's a major problem for the low and middle income countries? Is that why?
Well, it's part of it,
Okay.
but the truth is that Nigeria has the resources. We have the money, we have the personnel. It is the problem of applying the funds appropriately. Applying the funds appropriately. We have the money, we have the manpower. We have our people who have been trained in different parts of the world. You hear of universities, polytechnics being set up every day celebrating the opening of tertiary institutions. Going to a tertiary institution, it's not just to read and write and speak grammar. No. We go there to acquire knowledge and acquire skill. And after acquisition of this knowledge and skill, create the enabling environment, provide the necessary facilities to engage the people so trained, to deliver on what they have been trained. That is what it is all about.
Okay, in the course of the discussion, you made reference to Mr. Nwachukwu, your colleague, as in the 60s, who
Yes.
was able to, initiate the production of the smallpox vaccine and even yellow fever. You are the medical lab scientist of our time, and we're in a pandemic. Are you telling me that if you, as professionals, of that calling, are called upon now to make this difference that we all seek, that's to, seeing that Nigeria, comes up with its own locally produced COVID-19 vaccine. Do you think you and your team are capable of taking up that responsibility? If given to you, can you make a difference?
Certainly.
Or what have you been saying? What have you been saying amongst yourselves, within that, cycle?
Yes, certainly so. We have said it time and again. It is the same principle and technology involved in animal vaccine production as well as human vaccine production. Our colleagues in VOM, as we speak in this studio, are engaged in producing 18 different animal vaccines. So all we are saying is provide the facilities, provide the enabling environment. It's unfortunate that I was watching the man that visited the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital and was lamenting about 950 million naira
COVID-19.
released, COVID-19 funds released for setting up of molecular laboratory. If you are talking of setting up a laboratory, you look for a medical laboratory scientist. But if you carry the money and give it to administrators, stories will be told. If you take 20 million or 30 million out of that 950 million, call a medical laboratory scientist and say, set up COVID-19 molecular lab in this hospital. It will be done. I am telling you, practically, even within a couple of 3 months, we were able to set up a COVID-19 testing lab here in Abuja, in Jabi. So it's a question of call the man who has the training and the skill. Challenge him, just like Dr. Maje Kodumi did to Michael Nwachukwu before even calling the permanent secretary. Because when you call the administrators, they will come and claim to know what they don't know. And you leave the technical person. He said, well, since you didn't consult me, well, we sit down, look.
Yeah, but patriotism and nationalism is supposed to take the upper hand when such issues come up.
Certainly, you won't get crashed into something you have not been consulted and involved. Setting up molecular laboratory is one of the easiest things for medical lab scientists who have been so trained. I don't see what the big deal is all about. Is it a PCR machine? Is it all the equipment, the gadgets that go with molecular extraction of DNA and RNA? What is it all about? That 950 million will be released to a hospital and stories are being told.
So you occupy a position at the moment that is at the West African sub-region level. What narrative, are we having amongst yourselves within the sub-region in this pandemic?
Yes, in our recent conference that held here in Abuja, we have set up a team. Part of the mandate of the West African Postgraduate College is to advise governments within the ECOWAS region on issues that relate to laboratory and laboratory services. We did that in the height of the lockdown of countries following the pandemic. We sent a position paper to the ECOWAS president and copied the DG of West African Health Organization on the way forward, that continuous lockdown of our countries was not the way to go. Since scientific and medical knowledge has accumulated showing that this is an ailment that is treatable and curable, just like malaria that we have lived with for several years. The same way, let's open up our system, set up molecular laboratories, even at local government levels.
Anyway, we're no longer in a lockdown, and I don't look forward to going into a lockdown.
Why I'm saying this is that our college is in the business of training specialized manpower for all aspects of medical laboratory science and medical laboratory service, as well as giving advisory positions to guide government on the way forward. In our conference, regional conference that ended at the International Conference Center 2 weeks ago, we came up with position papers. We set up a task team that will come up with practical steps on vaccine production in our region. Okay, wow, that's good to hear. So that's good news for us. We look forward to the expected results from such, proposal or recommendation that you've made to the relevant authorities. Thank you so much, Dr. Okara, for making our time to join us on Health Options. We really appreciate you for your insights. My pleasure. Okay. It's time now for us to go over to our nature scanner to bring you information on how to reduce high blood pressure the natural way.
Hypertension is a major issue. It has to do with more importantly, weight, issues relating to the genes of the parents, because some have it as something that is transmitted from parents to their young children. Then issue of weight is very critical in issues of hypertension, as it is also critical in most of the ill health. And this is why there's a lot of insistence on BMI, body mass index, weight over height squared. The square root of it must be less than 25 or 29, as the case may be. It varies between man and woman. So if you have the capacity to keep your weight within normal, do regular exercise, eat healthy diet, don't be overweight, eat a lot of vegetable, a lot of fruit, don't eat too heavy carbohydrates, you are good to go. Then, issues of cardiovascular system, CVS, that is the system that controls issues relating to high blood pressure, issues relating to diabetes. So if the cardiovascular system is well detoxified, you can have a very good blood pressure. Either you are on orthodox medicine or you are on herbal medicine. So basically, if you want to have a very good blood pressure, you need to clean off your cardiovascular system. And we have found from our research that natural substances that act as vitamin C has the capacity to detoxify the human system and bring out all the waste and reduce the person in terms of weight and make the person light. And when you are light, you are well. Other ones, just to mention a few of them, water leaf, our common water leaf, not expensive, it's in the market. It has the capacity, it has a lot of phytochemicals that can reduce weight, that can take care of tuberculosis, that can take care of a number of very, very difficult diseases. In line with that is also celery, parsley, that has a lot of vitamin C constituents. Zobo is there. This has been well documented in a number of international studies of herbal medicine. We have blood thinners like garlic, ginger. These ones have the capacity to thin the blood. Then we talk about leaves like kale, K-A-L-E, kale, broccoli, ugu, bitter leaf, a number of them. When they are properly well combined, they boost the blood, and in an attempt to boost the blood, they boost the immune system. And in boosting the immune system, they increase the oxygen content of the blood. And you know, these things are all interwoven, interrelated. And even the oxygen they are piping through the window to deal with COVID issues. Once these things are boosted, you take these things and your oxygen level increases. When the COVID depresses it, this one goes up. And in doing all this, it helps in the body system to maintain the pressure. It produces nitric oxide. The nitric oxide has a role to play in high blood pressure because it has the capacity to expand the blood vessel. It cleans it up, expands it, and once it's expanded, blood flows freely. The pressure that would have been exerted by the flowing blood that leads to high blood pressure would have dropped, and by so doing, blood pressure is well managed.
And that is Health Options for this week. Remember that you can watch this edition and other episodes on our YouTube channel. Email us for your comments and contributions at healthoptions@nta.gov.ng. Remember to keep staying safe. My name is Rabi Abdullah. Bye for now.